Welcome to Blue Monday, as ever, with me, Les and Dave. We're coming to you on Wednesday this week, so thanks for all the name suggestions for the rename show for this week. On Patreon, Paula and Ian optimistically went for Winning Wednesday and Wonderful Wednesday. Tom said Witter on Wednesday. Andy went for the slightly abstract Little Saturday. Michael gave us a throwback with Stony Woney Wednesday. And Chuck offered When Will Moyes make an effing proactive substitution Wednesday, which we'll definitely pick up on later in the show. Honourable mentions to Steve's Blue and White Wednesday and Clarky's Black Watch Wednesday. But given the mood after Monday, I've decided to go with Liam's suggestion of the midweek moaning. So there we go. That's what we're called for this week. As ever, it's brought to you in partnership with the Invisible Wind Factory. It's the first venue on your right as you head to the new ground from town, just on the corner of Regent Street and Regent Road. We'll be open again ahead of the Palace game, as ever, with real ale from local breweries, loads of beer and cider on tap, pierogi and pickle street food and pies by Home Baked. Once again, I can recommend getting the pie and a pint for a tenner because it's well worth it. There's live music on and a great atmosphere to the build-up to the game. There's a guy who plays the guitar, and it's not and you know my feelings on acoustic guitars and football, but he doesn't do the usual sing-along stuff. He does a lot of just decent acoustic songs, so I'm all over that. Before we kick off, again, bit of housekeeping. If you watch it on YouTube, please do give us a like, a subscribe, and a comment. If you're listening on the pod, please do leave us a rating and a review. And if you're a Patreon subscriber, we are putting every podcast on the platform this season to make things a bit easy for you. If you're not a patron, you can sign up at patreon.com/the Blue Room Extra. And if you can shout us the price of a pint each month, roughly, you'll get all the usual podcasts advert-free and some extra ones each week. Right, Dave, West Ham at home. Bit of trepidation in the build-up to this one, as some of us feared a new manager bounce. Didn't feel like West Ham really had that. Felt more like a bit of a flat performance by Everton. Let them in. What do you reckon?
I think that's right. It become very blasé throughout most of it. I thought we scored that goal. Look, you never choose what time your team scores a goal or like a preference to it. But when you do score a goal, how long were we in there? 20 minutes or so. When he goes on and scores, it obviously creates what's to come in the game. And I don't know about you, but I felt like we've really had we've had the sort of real encouragement before we've scored in games so far, the real intent to keep scoring when we haven't up to a point. This one felt to me like when we did score, it was like, okay, we don't really need to press too much. We're just well within a comfort zone. We had a lot more possession than we normally do as well, which I thought was quite funny because it looked like we didn't really know what to do with it.
Yeah.
Because it was getting squared, it was getting knocked into midfield, it was getting put back. I guess that was probably the best thing to do, given the fact Beto was. Look, he gets slated every week, the poor lad, but you've got to call a spade a spade. He was absolutely dreadful.
The thing, just quickly on that, Dave. The thing I don't get is it's the amount he goes to ground. So there's clearly times in this game where the striker has got his arms around him. You could see it from where we were sat. And he doesn't get the free kick, and he goes to ground and he doesn't get the free kick. Now, I don't know if he's backing in. So the referee's just like, well, both these are at it. So he just doesn't get it, so he falls to the floor. But it seems to only ever be him that doesn't get these fouls. And it's quite weird, but it's obviously something he's doing, isn't it?
It is, and I think you've got to have the intelligence that if it's not working, then you've got to go and do something else. I mean, it's pretty obvious, isn't it, if things aren't going to the way you need them to go. He was infuriating. I didn't really appreciate some of the things we're getting shouted about him in terms of how crap he is and all that, because obviously the lad can hear that, and he's a lot. You can hear the groan. I know we're going to go on to that a little bit as well, because there was a little bit of a former Goodison touch to various parts of the game. Really, we'll go into a bit more detail in that in a minute. But yeah, I felt that it was just very within ourselves. No real intent of going and scoring that second goal, which would have finished it, because West Ham are generally quite a poor side. They looked a bit better. They've got a new manager in. You're right about that, thinking that you get a bit of a bounce. I probably think that their fans would have took anything but defeat there. They wouldn't have come to Everton expecting to win that game. You're seeing at the end, they were absolutely delighted to get a draw, as most teams will this season. I think when they come to the new stadium. And I can't think the lad Juve there who puts the cross in and Bowen scores from the end of it. He looked handy for them. I think we did it in full-back positions. It's the first time to throw questions at Jacob, which we said during the game, didn't we? It was a first look at him and you thought, yeah, it's clear now that he's not a right-back. And, look, he's been fantastic doing that. We can't just throw that out individually and say that wasn't a good performance when he's been fantastic playing at right-back. He's been obviously just thrown in there on a bit of a whim because we don't have another one in there. And then Mikalenko as well for the goal. I mean, a lot of people debated with me about that, but I thought he was a fault when he runs in. Keane's there in the middle pretty much on his own to win a header. And then Mikalenko automatically charges in behind him. I know a lot of fullbacks would do so. But when you've got their best player who's coming in at the edge of the 18-yard box,
it is nice, isn't it?
To be, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that does feel like that performance it feels like we've lost our way a little bit after a relatively positive start of the season. That's no wins in 4 now, I think. 3 defeats in those. No, sorry, 2 draws, 2 defeats in those 4. And it feels like the big things that we're missing from the summer transfers, i.e. strikers and full-backs, is really sort of coming back to bite us now. Like you said, O'Brien is looking a little bit out of his depth of full-back now, particularly when you've got a fast winger like Somerville was. I was amazed when he took him off, by the way. But yeah, when he's got a fast winger against him, he can't struggle, which is to be expected. The mad thing about this game was like he was not winning headers in the end, which is like 6'6" centre back playing right back. You should at least be winning headers, but it feels like his head completely went. And now it's kind of looking like the summer. We went on about this loads in pre-season about the players we signed, but it feels like an odd strategy to have bought Asnu, Barry, Dibbling, 3 players who the manager doesn't seem to think are ready to go into the team, and no right back either. Coleman got a new contract, but it doesn't look like he's able to play games because he plays in the cup and that's it. Ashley Young wasn't given a new contract, which to me at the time felt a bit strange because he can't cover those 2 fullback positions. It just feels like we've done well in a lot of areas in the team, but the 3 areas where we didn't really get reinforcements in, they're the real trouble areas now, aren't they?
Yeah, they are, and I think you'll get a lot of listeners saying, "Well, you're only slating these now because you're only seeing the map and results." When we've pretty much all been talking about these things since the summer, so maybe it's not a time now to emphasise. But I think it's complete opposite. I think now is the time where you're really looking at it and seeing the gaps there that we didn't fully cover. We were papering over the cracks in the initial burst of a positive start to the campaign, and yeah, I think you're right. I think those. What you've got options in inverted commas. I mean, a few times I've said how good our bench looks, with the exception of those areas. I mean, I put it on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, about Alcaraz. Just doesn't seem to be fancied by Moyes there, and I thought that game was crying out for him to come on. A lot of people saying he's not good enough, which I think is utter nonsense because I think he had a poor game against Wolves. People seem to be. That's basically all he should be. That's all he is for Everton, and that's it really. And he should have been on the pitch, I think.
And just on that Wolves game, he was by far from the worst player on the pitch there. He was actually one of the players who was looking to push forward, I think, in that first half. So I think for Moyes to take him off was dead weird in that game, and I think for him to not even get a look in against West Ham was crazy. We play differently now to what we did last season. We've mentioned this before with that front 3. We look to get the ball out wide more and get the crosses in. Whereas last season, we were playing a lot more through the middle to feet. And Alcaraz was a big part of that. And a big part of Beto's success last season during that first Moyes phase when he came in was Alcaraz picking the ball up from sort of a little bit deeper in midfield, pushing forward and playing the ball through. So I don't know if Moyes hasn't come out and said anything about Alcaraz. Alcaraz hasn't come out and said anything about why he's not getting a game. But it's starting to feel like it's just a bit of a personality clash, and Moyes never really fancied him in the first place. Hence the fact that it took ages to sign him. We signed him on the final day that we could have signed him, and then he got a 2-year deal with a 1-year potential extension. It feels like it's a player that was sort of forced upon Moyes, and he's digging his heels in and not playing him, whereby I think, like you say, in that West Ham game, it needed something different. And we'll go on to the strikers in a sec, but, I think you said at the weekend, there's a case for putting him up front.
Yeah, because he's done it before as well. If you look back on his career, he's done those sorts of things before. Look, we're not talking about a perfect solution here, But we're talking about something we need to try at the very, very least here when you look at what the other two lads have done or haven't done, more to the point. Yeah, I mean, it's an old-fashioned Moyes sort of way thing, the way he's done things in the past, isn't it? It's sort of like freeze out players. And it becomes pretty obvious to all of us as fans that he just doesn't fancy a player. Look, maybe we're speaking too much of this about early on in the campaign, and you have a look at, he comes in, does really well, and then he's one of the key players for us in an attacking sense. But that doesn't feel like David Moyes, does it? And as much as like I've done about how much he's changed since he was last at the club so many years ago, that's one thing that seems to have remained a constant wherever he's gone, with having his sort of, central view of everything. He doesn't have a bit of a perspective of what's going on in and around there. And it did, for the first time I looked at Moyes and thought, wow, where's the change coming here? Where are we going to do something else? Are you standing there thinking that this is going to ultimately run to us scoring a goal? We had the one chance with the one shot that we might have there with Garner at the end. Other than that, though, it was straight to Grealish. It was them putting 2-3 men. It was similar to what Liverpool did to us when we needed the goal to equalise. I think I actually feel sorry for Grealish from that perspective, really, because you have a lot of people saying it. You haven't got a fullback who runs off him. I think maybe once or twice you had Dewsbury Hall, maybe you go that side and you can play a neat little 1-2, but it's something we need to work at. Yeah, so just giving it to him and you're waiting for him to make a movement. It's very, very predictable. I think we've seen that from a couple of sides so far, like you mentioned there, the bit of a dry spell of scoring, and him providing. We've all buzzed off the assists he's provided, but it's the Premier League. People will find out. Yeah. They're not players don't go in that division. Managers don't manage in that division. Some of them are woeful, aren't they? But like the one they've just sacked, but they'll get it. People look at it and they'll get it, and you'll see it when you come up against better sides in West Ham as well, which is a little bit of a concern. So you've got to think outside the box there. Yeah, side as well with Ndiaye. I mean, he was absent there. I mean, I'm not too sure what the plan was with him on that side. I think we were shouting, weren't we, that their left back got a yellow card early on. Oh no, it was on the other side, wasn't it, with Grealish?
It took him about 5 fouls to get a yellow card, didn't it?
Exactly, but when he got them, I sent to you and I said, you just got to keep playing on that. Get him
and we didn't.
It just didn't come back. And obviously, I know the bar rises, doesn't it, to get a red card, but that's something completely different. And yeah, I felt everyone was a bit too contained, a little bit. I don't know, there was nothing really. I looked at that game and thought they're really going in for something else. We're really trying to penetrate from midfield. It just felt so boring, for probably lack of a better term. It felt like a boring performance from Everton, where it felt like we didn't properly go for the jugular as early as you do when you go 1-0.
Yeah, I think the issue we seem to have going forward now is Ndiaye has kind of stopped creating, and he's not getting on the end of chances, because those chances that Grealish is creating, they're all falling to James Garner or Idrissa Gana Gueye. It seems like every shot outside the area, the ball falls to Gana Gueye pretty much 9 times out of 10, which is mad. But I think I know exactly. He scored 1 goal now. That's it. But yeah, I think it's an interesting one with Grealish. Gav Buckland got a load of stick on Twitter, wrongly so, for me the other week, because he made a comment that was clipped a little bit harshly on him from the Echo podcast about Grealish maybe overplaying it a bit, and Moyes might want to have a word with them. But I think he's been proven right in this respect, because Grealish, as good as he is, especially against West Ham, he holds on to it too long, and it's clear he doesn't trust some of the other players. Don't think he trusts Mykolenko, which we can probably all sympathise with, but he is your left back. You've got to give him the ball. It's like it's becoming a little bit like kids football, where everyone's just giving the ball to Grealish because he's the best player on the pitch and saying do something with it. And then he's getting the ball and thinking, well, I'm not fucking passing to him. I'm not passing to him, or I might pass to you. And he's keeping hold of it. We're getting into a position where he can either go left and go right to the byline and cut it across. If that's blocked off, he'll try and cut inside, and then he sort of wanders into the area, and then he'll knock it back to Garner to shoot. And it's that was basically our pattern of playing. It is becoming a problem now, isn't it? Because if we are that one-dimensional, and Dyer's not doing it on the right-hand side, which in fairness I don't think is his best position. He's been put out there purely because Grealish has got to play on the left. the manager won't make any change to Ndai. So there's no other option there, or Diblin comes on with 10 minutes left. You've got Dewsbury Hall in the middle of the park, who I think has been brilliant all season, to be honest. I think he's been our best player. But it's suddenly from having that fluidity against Brighton, let's say, it kind of looks dead disjointed and one-dimensional now, doesn't it? Don't know how much of that's the strikers not making the run, but it's not working, and he needs to do something different, I think.
Yeah, the strikers thing's definitely a part of it. Probably the biggest part of the lot, isn't it? You've got nobody there to look for. With Grealish, it's really interesting because he's a right-footed player who uses his left foot more often. When you see he tries to get to the byline most of the time and dink it in with his left, you look at the goal up there for Ndai in the opening game against Brighton. That's mostly his game, I think. Again, talking to other people on social, they were saying, why does he not cut onto his right and shoot?
Yeah,
I've not seen him shoot.
No, it's mad.
I might be wrong there. All season wise, I haven't seen him try and pick one.
When you look at Villa, he scored loads of goals like that, didn't he? He seemed to. He cut in on his right and shoot, and a few for Man City as well.
What I think, like, stick with me here, but you know the way they've got Doku now at City, who's effectively, well, the same area he plays in, doesn't he? Cutting in from the left hand side. He's a box of tricks, that lad, and I feel like that's why Guardiola's probably looked at it when he come in and thought, you know what, that's an upgrade on Grealish, because you don't know what you're going to get from him. When Grealish it sounds like we're slating him, but we're absolutely not, because he's still our best player. I think it's all of us, most of us would say he's our best player. I'm not going to take that away from him, but when he does get it, it feels, and you're right, it's the mitigating circumstances around him that are probably the worst thing or the reason why it's not coming in the last couple of games. And let's face it, this is the last couple of games here. We're not going too far to say this has happened all the time. It's been great. But when he gets that ball, you're right, people in and around him, I'm thinking, is there a tight 1-2 there? It happened a couple of times in the second half. There was a tight little 1-2 that he'd play. People would start realising that if you're going to go to him all the time, somebody else needs to follow the ball in with him. That I think I'd like to think that's what Moyes is looking at the back of that. And then the ironic thing is, you got Charlie Alcaraz sitting there who could probably do that.
Yeah,
you've got a player there that, as an attacking midfielder, would want to link up with him, or on the other side as well. You've got Dibbling there that we brought on too late as well. It does. I think disjointed is the right word there to say about the last couple of games, and you know, it's a step up against the side we're going to be playing at the weekend, because Crystal Palace are just one of the best in the Premier League at this moment in time. I know we'll get on to that, but I just hate the thought that we're half a dozen games in, 1-2 drawn, 2 lost 2. Probably accurate to where we are, but that positivity, that vibe that we had with the stadium, I don't want that to plateau. But it felt against West Ham, it did. You go 1-0 up. Everton should have just run straight at West Ham there, because they're not good. You go and score a second, the game's over. Then that's when you can settle with possession. Yeah, but it was almost like the lads are looking at each other thinking, we've got more of the ball than the opposition. When's this happened before? Oh, let's just knock it side to side and keep it. That feels good. Do you know what I mean?
It is. It's like we've got footballers now, so they want to keep the ball, but it's like that's to the detriment of like springing at like a fast counter attack, which we did at times last season. I think on the Grealish point as well, like you said before, he needs an overlapping fullback, and Mykolenko isn't that, because some of those reverse passes he plays where he cuts inside and then he hits the reverse pass into the box or down the line, they're just perfect for a fullback to run onto and whip it in. So, you know, you'd like to think that there is work going on the training ground in that respect, but you're not going to get much out of Mykolenko in that regard, are you? I mean, we've got the lad Asnu there who, you know, Moyes said he's not ready. Moyes signed him, but he said he's not ready. But it's like, when is he ready? If you're not going to give him a chance even in the cup, when is he going to be ready?
Well, this is another classic Moyes-esque Everton thing, isn't it? Where like he'll sign a player and you did that in Dave's back, isn't he? And not doing that sort of thing. With the Mykolenko side of it, I mean, I have sympathy with Mykolenko. He was our player of the season, wasn't he? Just a few years ago.
Yeah,
he's fine as a left back. He's okay. He's fine to do that. But when you've got to play with somebody in front here, you've got to come up with some ideas there. You've got to come up with like getting up there, because let's face it, we're not playing a side. I know Bowen was that side, and probably that's what he'd say behind closed doors, why he felt like he had to put on the brakes in terms of trying to attack. Because if they get the ball and win it back, then their best player is going to be all over the place. And ultimately, that's why they went on and scored the goal.
Yeah.
But yeah, what I was going to say that we were talking about Alcaraz, we were talking about others, we were talking about the strikers.
Mikalenko overlapping and stuff.
Yeah, all of that comes into a pot where I'm thinking, well, what's your alternative not to give it to Grealish all the time, or not to give it to Ndiaye, obviously less so these days? What's the different thing? What's the line of play you go to now? What's plan B? And that plan B, I think, should be starting somebody else in a, whatever you want to call it, a 10, a false 9, whatever it's called these days. The forward point of an 11-men team, put somebody else there, and let's see how that works instead. Because let's face it, I felt like when we had possession, it was quite at the time, it was humorous to me that you've got your 8-foot tall striker who can't really hold it up, who's not really good in the air, and you're not playing, forward one direct ball to him. What's the point in him being on at all? Because you're not trying to, even though he's may well be crap at them, you're still not trying or giving him a chance to do it. So it just looks like a complete negative to have him there, and I just felt like he was just coasting through the game and not doing anything. And look, we know he can score goals, he's done decent things for the club, but I repeat again, there's teams that find this sort of thing out, and they're a team of big lads there, West Ham. They'd sit there all night long, wouldn't he, winning headers and beating him to the ball and stuff as much as he tries. So therefore, that's why I'm leaning more towards now. Put someone else there as your at the focal point of our attack, whether that be Grealish. Try that. Do something that your opposition would think, fucking hell, I can't believe they've done that. 10 minutes of the game. Wow, I didn't think that was going to happen. Whether it's Alcaraz, you've got 3 players there, I think, who you could put in as a focal point. I'm not going to go as far as saying as a number 9, but somebody who's at the top of the line there, be one of the best 3 that we've got there, and that would be Grealish, Ndiaye, or Alcaraz. Alcaraz probably won't, because we've just said then seems to be some sort of issue with him not getting as much of a game as we quite expect. So you're looking at Ndiaye or you're looking at Grealish. I wouldn't mind seeing that at the front. Or you play like a 4-3-3 as well, and you don't have a Beto in there.
Yeah.
And that's a discussion, Les, that I think we'd probably say, we're nowhere near good enough to play 4-3-3. We're not good enough a side to be able to do that. But at the new stadium, and with the amount of possession we had, I think we're bold enough to be able to go and do that now. I don't know about you.
Yeah, and I think Dewsbury Hall could drop back as well into a 3-man midfield quite easily.
Yeah.
And I'd be happy with that as a 3-man midfield. It'd be all right. And I think when Mail Roll comes back, see the new Gabamin, by the way, have we got to sign a crop from the Bundesliga or what? Because he's just disappeared, hasn't he?
Well, I've clearly, it's just gone by me, but I was like, where's he? Why isn't he playing?
Yeah,
get him on now. I'm shouting, get him on. Everyone's sitting around looking at me saying, he's not there, lad.
Yeah. But that's the thing, though, isn't it? If we do look at like the attacking options, Moyes, for the first time in probably any of his time at Everton, he's overloaded up front. We've got a lot of different options up front, and he's not trying anything different. It's like Beto comes off, Barry comes on, and Ndiaye comes off, Diblin goes on, Grealish stays on, Dewsbury Hall stays on. It's the same formation with, relatively speaking, the same players trying to do the same thing, and none of it's working. And we'll pick up on Chuck's point now about subs. This is something he can change in the game, and he doesn't. He'll rarely make a proactive sub. I think he subbed Beto at half time, didn't he, the other week, for Barry. But he very rarely will make a proactive sub. But even when he does, it's like for like, and he's got different options there, and it's getting quite infuriating, isn't it? When you can see something isn't working, change it round, like you say. Maybe go 4-3-3. Maybe have those front 3 interchanging with each other. Do something different, because the opportunity was there against West Ham, because they were on the ropes until the last 20, until they scored. I think it was until Jake O'Brien did that back header, which Pickford made a brilliant save off. And the crowd started getting jitty, which we'll come on to now. But it feels like it's on the manager to try and do something different, especially in a game like that where the away team, they're not the most confident. They're like right down the bottom of the league. you can do something different to try and get at them, but he just doesn't, does he?
No, and that's the thing with this. Will be a lot of fans turning to this now, saying "I told you so" when we got Moyes back in. Now, look, it was a revolution when he came in. Everybody who I guess most fans weren't happy with him coming back in. That's just an assumption based on what I've seen in terms of the reaction he's had. And then you're starting to, it's creeped into that place now where you're thinking, well, why isn't he not doing anything else? He's a man that went to West Ham, got the success with West Ham, won a trophy with West Ham, came on after the show, after the game, and started talking about, I know all these players at West Ham. Well, if you know them, then find a fucking way to put them to bed. Do you know what I mean? And that wasn't there. And you know, I'm just looking through the stats after the game now. There, and you're talking about the subs, and we made two. One on 69. Barry comes on for Beto, predictable. And then Dibbling gets 10 minutes after coming on from Dye. And then on the bench, you've still got Alcaraz there who sticks out like a sore thumb. And look, McNeil, which, look, if you had another week left in the transfer window, I'm pretty sure McNeil wouldn't be an Everton player anymore. But that's something else to look at going forward. In a Boonham, you know, you want to change things in midfield. But yeah, you've got Alcaraz sitting there, and then you've made those two subs of the players that are attacking ones. And the earliest one come on 70 minutes after they've equalised.
Yeah.
10 minutes for the lads who you've paid 40 million quid for. And he comes on for the player that just probably one of his, maybe not his worst game, but his quietest game, if we're to be kind, in and die. So, you know, when we spoke about it a lot, how the attacking options he's got, he didn't really utilise them, did he? Or he didn't utilise them in a different way than what was on there. And I just feel that we've got a good enough squad there now to change a game and change a result in a positive manner for Everton. And it's a really simple thing to say. But you're playing against a side that's on its ass. Yet they've got a manager. You come to our place, though, and we all can't wait. It's like Christmas Eve, isn't it? Every time before we go to the new stadium. Everything's there in place for us to go and do a team. And they're not a good team. And we struggled. And they need to change. That needs to change if we're going to kick on. Look, it's fine. You're smack in the middle of in the middle of the table there. 1-2 drawn, 2 lost, 2. The ones you've lost there, yet the derby. You know, we all probably assume that, but
even that's looking like a terrible result to me now, because they're there for the taking, aren't they, at the minute?
You've seen it. If anyone's seen them against Galatasaray, and Palace, of course, who went did them. But you think the other two sides we dropped points for, Villa, it was shocking, and these who probably level par with them, and we've dropped 4 points from those two games there, which we might well be looking back on in a couple of months' time, thinking, do you know what? I know it's classic, isn't it? Oh, if we'd have won that game, if we'd have won this game, but their games we should have won.
Yeah,
I think it's a fact that their games we should have won less, and we didn't, and we lacked taking any different opportunities here. And I don't want Moyes to be Mr. Safe, but yet we've seen a couple of times already that's the plan that he's got already.
Yeah,
and there's no alternative as of yet.
Yeah, it's easy to get ahead of ourselves, isn't it? Because we've gone into this like we got the win against Brighton. Leeds was a write-off. We beat Brighton. The new stadium was great, and it's easy to get ahead of yourself, and it's understandable to think we should be doing better. We're up on this stage last season, which is a definite positive. You know, we're probably where we should be at the minute. So it's not all doom and gloom. It just feels it a bit, doesn't it? Because I think, you know what, we could have done better in that respect. And that just leads me on to the next bit now. It feels like the honeymoon period's getting over with the ground as well, to be honest. On Monday night, I noticed it was very noticeable that the first tetchy crowd at the new stadium was there. It was the first time we've really needed to be tetchy, because I think there was still a bit of optimism around Villa, because we were playing all right and we probably should have beat them. It just never happened. Against West Ham, as they started to get back into the game more, there was a load of groans, like you said, Beto. There was audible groans every time we lost the ball, and that sort of tetchy Goodison type atmosphere came back. Does feel like that little honeymoon period's over, doesn't it, with the ground already?
Yeah, and in different ways than what I think most people would expect with this, because I think the assumption when other teams come here is like, wow, and we should play on it. The fact that you're coming to our stadium, it should be bouncing, it should be intimidating for away teams to come to us. Obviously, fans are loving it. I mean, you see a lot of fans, so many of them, so complimentary how good of a stadium is, but that needs to end quite abruptly for us, because I don't want them coming thinking it's a lovely place.
Yeah.
I want them coming to think it's an absolute shithole. It took me hours to get there, and I hate going to play at Everton. I want them to hate it. You can tell me if it's a nice where you can get a nice pint and it's a lovely walk up and you can see the Mersey on a nice warm day. That's lovely. When the 90 minutes starts, I hope you think it's a shithole and you never want to come here again. That's what I want to get. But yeah, from our perspective, Les, yeah, you're right. There was a familiar feeling that we've had at Goodison. Look, I'm not going too far here, but I have seen, again, talking to many people, they're like, yeah, you sort of, it felt to me, a couple of interesting points have said, well, I think you've got the big South Stand which we're on are still trying to find their way to being what the Gladys was like. I think that's a pretty fair point, to be fair. But I feel as if as well that I didn't feel anything negative towards the crowd in the first couple of games there. Everyone's bouncing.
Yeah.
I felt that against West Ham to a point where it, again, use that term, plateaued a bit. And then, yeah, you're right. When things were happening, like Beto miscontrolling every pass that was thrown to him, there was the old, it's that familiar tone that's just, you'll never get it out of your head in your entire life. And that feeling of, and then you just hear the odd voice saying, fucking change it, or something like that.
Yeah. Which
should have happened. But, I mean, what I don't know what your feeling is towards it, but I guess you're only going to react to what you see. No, you can't be slated for thinking, oh, you can't do what you did. You can't feel like you did a Goodison because this is a brand new stadium. You're a fan watching Everton. Everton themselves don't change. I mean, in the context of things, not in the literal sense. Everton haven't changed in terms of how we react as fans. Yes, 1878, everything they do, the originals, all of that stuff is brilliant. Looks fantastic. I think when the team comes on again, brilliant. Noise, fantastic. When Everton don't play well low, fans are going to feel the same they did at Goodison.
Well, yeah, and there's this weird thing, especially on Twitter at the minute, where you've got a lot of former street enders who are proper full of themselves saying it's shit because it's not all us there. If we play that game at Goodison Park against West Ham, the atmosphere is exactly the same. And we said this all along, there's inevitably going to be a bit of a dip. And we've hit this lull now. But I'm just not having this revisionism that like Goodison Park was like the best atmosphere ever. 9 games out of 10, it was shite. And then you get the one big game and it would go off.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, look, we'll get a lot of people saying, oh, maybe Goody Two Shoes or the Blues saying to you, oh, Goodison was always the best in the world and all that, mate. Given the last 4 or 5 years, we've been absolute shite. Goodison was a hard place to go to as a fan, let alone how that was as a player. And maybe at some point years to go, they'll say you have hard work playing at Goodison there when Everton weren't doing well, when we were crap. There wasn't the everyone's Everton's back. Everyone's on Everton's back in a negative way, not a positive one. And the way to that, and the point you make there about, well, our fans having that little entitlement because they were at the Gladys and there are other people there when you've got double the size of the stands are going to be. Well, it's pretty obvious there's going to be new people there.
Yeah.
So I'd like to think that those who do say that, they're not turning to the people who are sitting there, not singing next to them and saying, get up and do it, are they? No. No one has the bottle to do that. You go there, you pay your money, you take your choice. That's the whole point of the thing. Yes, we'd all love everybody to do the exact same thing, jumping up and down, screaming and supporting players who kick the ball out of play, or better, where it's come off his shin and gone out for the corner.
Sorry, I'm just thinking about that header now, Villa on the halfway line where he ended up back and fixed it.
That's him in a nutshell, isn't it? Really, but, yeah, you can't start bemoaning fans because they weren't by you in a particular part of the ground. You can't. You should, well, you can do obviously, but you shouldn't be doing that because I think it's quite stupid if that's your take on things. But the original point we were talking about there was a familiar groan.
Yeah,
we heard maybe not all too much, but maybe we heard it, quite a lot when Everton haven't performed on the pitch. So it's something that you want to change. You got to be more positive with it. But look, we've had 5 games in there so far, 4 games in there so far in the season.
Conceded 1 goal.
Well, yeah, and still haven't lost. So let's give it a little bit of perspective there. But the two games there, Villa and West Ham, I'll be looking at that thing, and they're 4 points dropped, given the situation both those teams have been when they've come in. It's particularly Villa. Villa was shocking, and we should have won that game. Let's hope that the goal scoring side of things doesn't dry up, because teams are maybe looking at Grealish and thinking you double him up, Everton won't score. Same with Ndiaye, Beto's shite, so don't worry about him anyway. Let's start looking outside the box already. And I think most teams will have that sort of issue if they're a mid-table side at the moment. Yeah,
and that leads us nicely into the final bit where we'll talk about the Palace game coming up on Sunday. Another massive game, a lot of pressure on Everton again after just getting a draw against West Ham. It feels like we need to. It's an international break after this one, isn't it? And then it's City away. So it's like, we probably do need to get something out of this. Just not so much for like the sake of the manager or our position in the league, just for our own sanity, I think. And it's Palace, who are Europe's informed team. Apparently, they've not lost in 18. The last time they did lose, they had this mad blip, I don't know if you remember, in April, where City beat them 5-2 and Newcastle beat them 5-0. So they were the last 2 defeats they had in the Premier League. Well, in any competition, actually.
Yeah.
Which was just a bit of an aberration. Before that, it was us at Selhurst Park. So that's like, what? That's 3 defeats in 20-odd games. They're a good side. They've lost Eze, and they don't seem to have missed a beat, really. They've beaten Liverpool twice in that time. They beat City in the semi-final. They've played good teams and come away with good results. I said on post-match in my brief cameo, I hope we're still their kryptonite, because I think the last time they beat us at home was 2014, that Martinez game. So it's been a long time. But I just think our luck could run out this time, because they look very good and we're a little bit on the ropes.
Yeah, you've got probably the more. I always, every season, I have a favourite team to watch, and it's them. Because I feel as if how far they've come with Glasner going in there. He's done a fantastic job, and he seems quite a mellow, sort of quiet fella who just goes about his business, and he's got everything lined up. The Gay thing could have affected them as well, which again, he's going to go at some point this season, if not the end.
Well, then Stein was down to him, wasn't it? I think he just put his foot down and said, "We're not selling him," and that's what you want.
And you don't see that these days. If a player wants to go, a player goes.
Yeah.
You look at Isak, you look at all that crap. That's what happens. That's how unfortunate things are with the players having the power. He said, "I'm not having this. I'm going to play it in." So he's not going anywhere. If I've got the player that's effectively what I want there, do I think he's adequate enough, then fine. But no, he's not going until then. And then the other side of that as well, he seems to have just been, well, things just continue. The fact he's saying to me, you're not going to sit there and cry. And similarly, he's still played at a level of the performances why Liverpool probably wanted them in the first place.
Yeah.
Mateta, again, somebody else who's been massively underrated for a long, long time. I'd like to have seen ourselves maybe go in for a player like that. He'd be the big bucks now, wouldn't he? Wharton as well, who's in there too. They've got some top class players there who just go under the radar. And I describe that as the way that side is. They just go under the radar. You're looking at them now, they're in the top 4 with the start of the season. They beat the shite as well, and deservedly so. Mm-hmm. As much as like I was away watching it with many Reds and my mates saying, Liverpool played shite there. I was like, no, Liverpool didn't play shite. Crystal Palace played better than Liverpool.
Yeah.
That was why Crystal Palace were better than Liverpool. That's why they went on and won the game. This is going to be our toughest at the new stadium so far by quite some margin.
Yeah, it is, definitely.
Tough one to win, that. Look, in normal circumstances, again, I'm banging on about how we beat Villa and West Ham. I'd be thinking, you know what, I'll probably take a point against these.
Yeah.
But like you've referred to there, you've got City, you've got a ridiculous international break. Then the big boys start coming to the
Then
stadium.
City, then Tottenham after that, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, all of that starts coming. They look like they've got themselves sorted too. So these are the big names we're starting to play. Now we've only had one with the shite so far. So, you look at it and are we on a level par for what we've had so far? I'd say probably not. I'd say we probably could have 3 more points, but maybe 4 if you're thinking of Villa and West Ham.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of pressure on this one, Les, I feel. You don't want to go and look. I mean, if you lose this, and what gets me is it's a narrative that's been forever, that you look at a table and you think, oh, there's only been 7 games gone. That isn't going to be the accurate league table. Well, it does. The total adds up. Do you know?
Yeah, and I think it's about now it starts to sort of make a bit more sense, doesn't it now? Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It falls into place where you're thinking, well, you need to start going on a 3-game winning streak to move up a place. It's starting to edge towards that sort of thing now. So, I mean, this is a big one against Palace, and in terms of it's not like I'm a Palace fan. Their fans are great as well. They're all over the place when they go. They're great support, everything about them. Going away to Palace is an absolute shithole, a hard place to go. And it refers back, I think, funnily enough, and I didn't script this, but what I said about away fans saying, "Oh, it's lovely, the new stadium." I want them to think it's a shithole. Like Crystal Palace, it feels like
when you're stuck on that side.
Oh, parking open, or you got to go to a Sainsbury's. It's just horrendous, a woeful away stadium to go to. That's what you're made to feel like, and that will have a positive feeling for them there because they love it. It's their home, similar to Goodison. A lot of people didn't like Goodison, but anyway, I'm banging on about that. Crystal Palace is going to be a tough side to beat, tough side to score against as well. You can't play like we did against Villa. You can't play like we did against West Ham on Monday. Got to think of something different there, Davey, because
he's
can't mugs.
He's going to have to make changes, isn't he? Because Dewsbury Hall got that ridiculous yellow card, the second ridiculous yellow card in as many games. That's 5 yellow cards in 6 Everton games. You got 9 in 95 at Chelsea.
And he didn't deserve 2 of them were
I know exactly. So 3 effectively. So he's going to be missing, which for me, like I said before, I think he's probably been our best player so far this season. He's going to be a massive miss for this game. Do you think Ndai slots into that 10 position with Alcaraz on the right? Or do you think maybe he'll start dibbling on the right? Will he go with Beto or Barry up front and then switch them both at half time again? He needs to do something different, doesn't he? I'm not convinced he will. I think it'll be the obvious. I think it'll be Ndai in the middle and probably Alcaraz on the right with Beto up front still, I reckon.
I mean, I'd love to disagree with you and say I'm much more confident that he will do something different to that, but I generally agree to you. I mean, look, he could do a lot of different things in a really good way, can't he? Dewsbury Hall, which is the big boots to fill already. I mean, it feels like it's a massive blow that he's out of the side so far because he has been one of our best. As an attacking midfielder, I would like to see Alcaraz in for him. But I could even go as far as thinking he might put Irabunum in for him and just go with an even more
midfield a bit. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I could see him doing that when you think about Wharton and the players they've got in that position.
Yeah,
but I'd like to go along with what you said there and start Barry. I mean, let's face it, maybe a little bit harsh going in on him being really much similar to what Beto's like. But he needs a run. He absolutely needs a run.
We said that last week, didn't we?
You might go and spend on a player. You've got to give him a go there. But I want to see something that he's been working with him, because the lad looks like he doesn't know what he's doing when he's on the pitch. I'm pretty sure that's not him.
Yeah. If you look at his clips from last season, he's another one who he tends to pick it up out wide by the look of it and run into the box.
Right.
So a little bit more like a wide striker, really. And he's getting it punted up to his head, if anything, isn't he? It's the same shit, really. Or if we're getting it down to the byline, he's not that sort of striker by the look of it. I know he's big, but it doesn't look like he's the sort who's going to run into the box and score a header. So it's about playing to the strength of the players that we've got, not just in the terms of the people you're putting on the pitch, in the terms of the way you're playing playing the game. You've got to play to the strikers. He's your focal point. Everything needs to go through him at some point, technically. So you've got to play to his strengths, and we're not doing that. And that's And that's why we said, we need to try something different. You can't just keep doing that with these two players because it doesn't work.
It's the age-old thing, isn't it? You've got a big lad, he must be great in the air.
Yeah.
We've got one there who shows you he's absolutely woeful in the air. And when he scored goals for him, I can think maybe one or two headers where he scored, maybe the one at Wolves he scored, which was obviously a tap-in of a header. But it's not his game. I mean, many people listen saying, I don't know what else is his game as well. But with Barry, you try what you've bought him for. And I guess, look, what a lot of people have said there, well, you can see why Moyes hasn't been head of the recruitment side of things, because the players he probably wouldn't sign himself, Alcaraz being that option we've spoken about there. But you can't, you're spot on. You can't buy someone and think, you know what, I want him to play in this system. Even if he wasn't your choice to buy, you still got to utilise the player.
Got to make the best of it, yeah.
Of course you have, yeah. And look, that shouldn't be a term we use. You've got to make the best of it, because you've gone and banged out a lot of money for this fella. Clearly, whoever's gone and got him, and the recruitment we've made has been pretty good all around the place. I don't think they've gone and made a massive mistake paying whatever it ends up to be 30-odd million quid for him, and then 40 million for Dibbling. Yet we've not really seen either of them too much yet. In fact, I think Barry's made one start. Dibbling, I think Dibbling's had the total of about half an hour accumulated in the amount of minutes you've had on the pitch. Maybe these are the options. Well, as if you're going to put and dice in die in the middle, you give Dibbling a go. Options are there. That's a positive. Not utilising them is a negative.
Yeah,
someone has to change that, and he's being forced to. So the ball's in his court, and he has to think up of something that is going to be as good as it has been on the games where we've played really well and won so far this season.
Yeah, of course, Everton do have the most complete striker in the league. Unfortunately, he plays at centre-back. Just wanted to, just before we go, just touch on that header, because we didn't pick up on it, did we? That was a fantastic header against West Ham from Michael Keane. That, if you look at that fella's goal reel on YouTube, and if we were signing him for 30 million as a striker, we'd be like, oh, he's going to be so good, this fella. His goal, I mean, I'm not saying he should play striker, but his goal scoring is incredible, isn't it? He scores every type of goal.
Yeah, I really, do you know what? I think it's great, but it becomes a bit of a party trick, doesn't it, really? And everyone has a bit of a laugh in it.
It's a good one to have, though, scoring goals, isn't it?
We're doing it now. We're having a sort of laugh in it, but if you look at more of a serious point there's actually, when you need a goal at the end of the game, he's obviously the fella you look to do it. From set pieces or whatever, stand on the edge of their box, because he can rattle one home. You look what he did against Ipswich. You look what he did against Spurs that time.
Yeah,
he can prove he can strike a ball. He can control a ball. Michael Keane is a good footballer, and
you've said it now.
I've said it, and I'm saying it now, because to me, you mentioned Dewsbury Hall. He's been our best player so far this season, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree.
He hasn't set a foot wrong, other than perhaps the goal that Wolves scored. One of the goal that Wolves scored in positional. Yeah. I don't know whether it was the equaliser or the when they got back, but he hasn't put a foot wrong other than that. Really, he's been as dominating as you'd expect, given the size of him. We talk about Beto being 6'8" and Keane's probably slightly smaller than him, but yeah, I think he'd win 10 out of 10 every cross that goes in. He's that type of player, and you see it quite often, who gets to the sort of over the age of 30, then thinking, hang on, you know what? I'm going to become what I should have been 5 or 6 years ago, the one that Everton signed, and he's been fine to me. I get to the point it'll be interesting what Moyes do, but I think he will go with what he normally does. He'll take Keane out, put Branthwaite in next to Tarkowski. Right now, Keane, in more than one sense, has been head and shoulders above everyone else on the back line. Header he scored great. Defensively being good. He's playing his diagonals as well, which are very predictable, but nonetheless, he's still good at doing it. He's been fine, Michael Keane. If it was Branthwaite that had performed the exact same way, we'd be fuming if he wasn't included in the England squad. I'm not asked about the England squad, but
I know what you mean.
You know what I mean? The perspective of, you look at Branthwaite, if he played like that, we'd be saying he should be, in competition for the Ballon d'Or. Where it's been Michael Keane, everyone wants to stay back and be a little bit more tempered in how they say how well he's done. I'm going to sing from the rooftops. Michael Keane has been fantastic so far this season. And Everton might not well have hit, 8 points we've got so far this season, if he wasn't a centre-back, really. I know we're trying to finish on high. Michael Keane, who'd have thought we'd been saying it? Michael Keane's probably been Everton's best player so far.
I agree completely. That's a nice positive note to end this midweek moaning.
Or a negative one. People thinking, well, it shows you how everyone else is.
No, we're keeping positive because he has been like objectively great. He really has been good.
He's raised the bar. Not everyone, not gone down to everyone else.
Exactly, he has. Yeah, nice positive to end Blue Monday there, or the midweek moaning. Take your pick. Let us know what you think in the comments on the podcast or on YouTube. What will Moyes do against Palace? What does he need to do against Palace? Because that is going to be a tough game to get a result from. Thanks as ever for listening and or watching. We've got everything else coming up this week, Wednesday. So we've got the weekly coming up, mailbag, we'll have a weekend preview, and then it's straight back to post-match again. So yeah, lots more. Oh, and we've got a deep dive part 2, Brown the Bone.
That's the one, yeah, part 2. I'm editing it at the moment. The first one is, it's real great nostalgia, what Becky and Steve do. And we've had an amazing load of feedback from actual families of the players that they've looked at in the past. And it's been great. It's a brilliant listen. It's a pleasure to edit it. So make sure you give it a go. If you want to know your Everton history, then I'd highly recommend listening to that. And a lot of our older fans as well have just been raving about it. So give it a share, even if you don't listen to it, because it's well worth your time.
Yeah, nice one. It's right. That's it for this week's Blue Monday. Up the Toffees.